Good morning once again. Jihad El Jihad is chapter 2 from my book, the Autobiography of a Detroit Hustler. This chapter is entitled Dead Man Walking. My dad's family moved from Hillsboro to Green Lawn off of Curtis in northwest Detroit, a move I didn't really want to make. I had recently started spending a lot of time with my mom's sister, Bobby, and my little sister / cousin, Aaliyah, and my uncle, Eki D, on Stokely Street. They lived in the flat upstairs from where me and my mom had moved after we moved off from 15th and Marquette. The environment was a lot looser for me there. They allowed me much more freedom, and I was exposed to a lot more of the life. Eki was a player / gangster / hustler. The things I saw and heard around there from them and the company they kept fascinated the shit out of me. And I was always all eyes and ears, and I soaked this shit up like a Swiffer picker upper. I didn't miss nothing. They had some friends that lived on Tyler Street in Dexter, a couple named Joyce and Nelson, who had a couple of daughters, Leslie and Vanessa. Vanessa was a gorgeous red bone, and Leslie was an equally beautiful brown skin. And I was equally infatuated with both of them, although Vanessa was my age and Leslie was 2 years older. In the beginning, my eyes were set on Vanessa, her being my age and all, but also Nelson and I had become really close. He was a really nice dude and seemed to take a real interest in me. He was big into amateur sports and coached a semi-professional basketball team. He liked the fact that I was into boxing. He even brought Bobby, Aaliyah, Norman, Joyce, and Leslie to one of my fights. I was fighting Golden Gloves at the time, and I was good, too. My idol was Muhammad Ali, and I patterned my style of fighting after him. So the combination of me coming to see Vanessa and Nelson had me spending a hell of a lot of time at their house, and Joyce and Nelson never turned me away, but instead made me feel so welcome that it was like a home away from home. Vanessa was in the Catholic girls' boarding school and came home very infrequently. As a result, I saw much more of Leslie than I did her. Eventually, it came to my realization that it was Leslie that I really liked. The relationship we had established made me feel very ashamed and awkward trying to let her know, a fact that I've regretted many times in my life. I really like that girl. And I hope one day before I'm gone, I get to see her at least one more time. I hope you hear this listening, don't mind me saying it. So when the family moved to Green Lawn, I was allowed to move with Bobby and Eki. Actually, Bobby, because Eki had gotten locked up and was gone for the next 5 years. Bobby was glad to have her nephew around for a couple of reasons. Her and my mom were extremely close sisters, and having my mom's son around probably made her happy. But just as importantly, if not more, along with me came an income, that Social Security check. And with Eki gone, it was tight for her, and that check really helped out. At first, I was still attending Northwestern High School, and a lot of the kids I knew from 15th and Goldberg Elementary were in my classes there. But 15th and Marquette is a long way from Stokely and Fullerton, literally and figuratively. This is where my life took a turn from which it never really recovered. Bobby was working for Bell Telephone. She would wake Aaliyah and I up for school every morning. They had to leave slightly before me because my schedule at Northwestern didn't require me to be in class until 10 a.m. But she woke me up at 7 o'clock anyway. One morning, a man by the name of Steele came to the house just after she had left for work, and I was home alone. This dude was a very well-known gangster, and I mean a real one, and a killer. This is during the time Detroit is the murder capital of the world, and back then, gangster / killer was synonymous. You had to be one to be the other. He's got a large paper bag with him, full to the top with weed, Acapulco Gold. Some of the best weed the planet Earth has ever produced. Back then, you had the light green weed that came from Jamaica, the Panama Red, and the Colombian, and the Acapulco Gold. If you didn't have one of them, then you didn't have no weed. He asked me, "Where's your aunt?" I said she left for work. I was used to seeing him. He would come by often. Sometimes he would be with a woman, or sometimes with two, sometimes with a couple of his partners. And I always knew when he showed up, I was good for a real treat to my eyes, ears, and pockets. I can't begin to tell you about the stories I would hear at those visits. They would have album covers full of cocaine, weed, heroin, bottles of liquor and wine. My dad and Norman would show up, the jazz would be playing, they'd start flashing money, talking shit, and it seemed like they were having so much fun. And they were. I would sit and watch and listen and tell myself, I can't wait until I'm old enough and make enough money to be able to do shit like this. And one day I did. He says, tell her to hold on to this for me. And he left. But he left that bag of weed with me, which I immediately stuck my hand in and grabbed as much as my fist could hold. Before I go any further, I got to tell you this. I got some of this weed one day, and I'm walking from Elmhurst Street down Stokely. A house or two before I get to Cortland, I'm smoking a joint, and there's a guy sitting on his porch who must have smelled it. He say, little brother, what you got there? Sure smell good. Let me hit that. I didn't give a fuck because I was already high as hell, so I stopped and shared the joint. Real cool dude. We talked for a while and I left. A couple of days later, the same thing happened. He tells me he's with a group called Parliament. I didn't believe him. I had a couple of records by Parliament. I want to testify and all my goodies are gone. He said, come on down to the Arcadia Friday night and I'll let you in. I was going anyway because I heard Parliament was going to be there. But I just knew he was full of bullshit. He said, ask for George. I went, I asked, and sure enough, he got me in. He asked if I had any more of that weed with me too, and I did. He introduced me to the rest of the vocal group, the Parliament, and the 5-member band that played behind them, Funkadelic. I had the fucking time of my life that night. They took me to their room at the 20 Grand Motel, and that started a pretty intense relationship with those cats. I'll never forget. But now back to the weed. My bedroom was on the upstairs porch. At night, I would climb down after Bobby had gone to sleep, walk up to Dexter, catch the bus to the boulevard and 14th, walk over to my buddy's house who lived on Wabash. There was a motel on 14th Street that sat on next to the playground I used to play on when I was a kid. Outside this motel and all the way up from 14th Street to Ferry Park in 94, from Ferry Park all the way to 94, prostitutes supplied their trade. I would roll up a bunch of joints and my partner and me would sell them to the prostitutes and duck the police all night. I thought that was the greatest fun in the world. Prior to and after I had gotten hold of the weed that I was pilfering from Steele's bag, we had another hustle. When it was cold and snowy outside, the prostitutes' feet would get cold and wet. A lot of those old houses around that neighborhood still had those old coal-burning furnaces. Also back then, they used to use those old-style metal milk crates. We would take red house bricks, heat them up in the coal furnace at his house, put them in the metal milk crates, and sell them to the prostitutes for $1. Those bricks held heat for a long time, and they would stand on the crates and dry their shoes and warm their feet. There was an old factory that had closed down on Wabash across the street from his house that furnished all the bricks we needed. The milk crates were easy to find, and if we kept an assembly line going for a couple of hours, we could usually make about $10 a piece, which was a decent little hustle for cats our age. And along with the joints, I could make $20 easily. Shit. Ford wasn't the only one that had a better idea. And I'm getting lessons all the time. The girls are helping me the girls got me helping them look out for the police, which I was going to do anyway because of my curfew. That's a couple of dollars. I'm watching how they set up jack moves with a trick or two. As I said, I'm getting all kinds of lessons. Then I'd catch the bus back to Dexter and Fullerton, walk back to Livernois, cross the alley, climb the porch, climb in bed, and play sleep when Bobby woke me up at 7. Get up, get dressed, eat something, and wait till she left and go back to bed. I was selling weed at school, which now I was transferred to McKenzie, where I would soon meet the mother of my 2 daughters, Jamila and Marcella. The mother's name was Janice. But I'm seeing this bag is getting really short. We're talking about 3 weeks of me dipping every day. Obviously, Bobby ain't checking it. She probably knew better than to fuck with it. And by now, I know the cat's got to come out of the bag sooner or later, but I figured I'll cross that big bridge when I get there. One morning, the doorbell rang. I look out the front porch window, and there's that all-black Fleetwood Eldorado. It's Steele. Oh, shit. Looks like I'm about to cross that bridge right now. I buzz him up. He comes in. He's got his bodyguard / henchman / killer with him, James Moody. Everybody knows this nigga James Moody is a cold-blooded killer who some say was ultimately responsible for killing Steele himself. James Moody's body was found a year later parked in the trunk of his car at Detroit Metro Airport, shot to death. But today, he's alive and kicking. both of them. He says, "What's happening, little man?" "Nothing," I respond. "Where's your aunt?" I said, "She left for work." "I need that bag I left with you." Now, my first inclination is to say I don't know where she put it, but that would only be stupid. It would be a real coward's way out, because he's only going to come back for it, and it's going to front my aunt off. So I go get it. Now, remember, this bag was full when he gave it to me. You couldn't even fold it over at the top. Well, let it suffice to say that the description nowhere fit the bag I brought back into the living room. I got to say this, though. He used to bring shit there all the time and never come back to get it. All this time, I'm trying to convince myself that this was going to be one of those times. If I really believed he was coming back, I'm not going to say I wouldn't have tapped that bag just a little bit, but I certainly wouldn't have hit it as hard as I did. And looking at that bag now as I'm carrying it back to the living room, even I can't believe I hit it this hard. I felt like I was walking that last mile, dead man walking. I'm 15 years old. I don't really consider myself what you might call a tough kid. I just know that when I'm pushed or compelled to, I will fight or go to whatever extremes I had to go through. But on this occasion, it was painfully obvious to me that I was woefully outmatched. Now, not only is Steele a lot bigger than me, but he's also the former heavyweight champion at Jackson Prison, for which he had just been released a year or two before this. And he's also a known killer who has another known killer with him, and I just noted there's two of them. When I entered the room with the bag, it took only a glimpse to see that this bag in my hand no way resembled the bag he left in my hand a few weeks ago. As I hold the bag out and presented it to him, his whole expression changed and a dark look came over his face. He said, "What the fuck is this?" He was standing now and never reached for the bag as I'm still holding it out to him, feeling stupid as hell and actually anticipating my impending demise. It finally dawned on me, this time, you done went too motherfucking far. He said, "I don't want that shit. You tell Bobby to call me. I'll be back." I said, "Hold on, man. She ain't got nothing to do with this. I took the weed." He said, "You did what?" I realized I could have chosen a better choice of words. So real quick, I said, "I don't mean I took the weed. I mean, I'm the one who went into the bag." She didn't know nothing about it. He said, "Little nigga, where's the rest of my weed?" I went on to tell him about how I'd been selling weed on 14th and at school. He said, "Well, what the fuck did you do with all the money?" I took him to my closet. I showed him a few pair of gym shoes, a jacket, some pants, some shirts, cologne, and a radio I had bought. I also told him I had been buying food and shit. That wasn't a total lie, but it's just not as much as I let on. The thing was, I really would come in with shit. Bobby thought I was stealing all this shit, and to be honest, she just didn't give a fuck. He looked at me hard as a motherfucker and said, "Little nigga, motherfuckers done came up missing for less than this. You lucky I like your little red ass, but don't you never take nothing from me again." And he slapped me on the back of my neck so motherfucking hard, it bent me over at the waist. All the time, Moody is laughing so hard, he can't catch his breath. Steele was asking him, "Can you believe this little motherfucker?" My eyes is watering, my ears is ringing. I'm dizzy as a motherfucker from that slap, but I ain't dead. He put a handful of weed on the living room table and didn't say nothing else and left. He never even told Bobby about it. A couple of months later, 4 men walked into a bar on Joy Road, called out his name, and when he answered, they riddled him with bullets from a Thompson's machine gun, along with another one of his bodyguards, a cat named Fillmore. This was the way of the life on the streets of the murder capital of the world, the city of Detroit, that I had been trying to get into, and little did I realize I had just opened the door.